Hey folks, Kilt-Man here, Kilt-Man! At your services. And you know, it's Halloween. I guess we're all entitled to one good scare. Yes! Welcome to One Good Scare for Halloween, number 3. And this one goes out to Dave Ascot, who begged for this one, to be honest. It's coming, Dave, it's coming. It is, of course, The Burning! Yes, the most frightening of all maniac movies. Or so it was touted at the time. And you know what? They weren't far wrong. Cut from the same teeth as Friday the 13th and all the other teen slasher picks from that period. This was actually written, well, allegedly this was written way before Friday the 13th. So, you know, at least we've got to give it some kudos for that. But it's boast for being the most frightening of all the maniac movies. You know, there's some mileage in that, because this one genuinely does, you know, hit a few of the right buttons and get the tension levels risen. So, it's a stalker slash thing, it's a summer camp. The Old Cropsy Legend, which was a campfire tale told many times, it's kind of retweaked this for this movie. He's the old camp caretaker, Cropsy, played by Lou David, who looks not dissimilar from that. Not quite the same colour as that, but he has an upturned nose and very sort of squitty eyes. And Tom Savini, makeup supremo Tom Savini, thought, I can work with your face. Yes, because you're already halfway there. But Cropsy, whose favourite tools are the big garden shears, and he carries them around everywhere he goes, he, in the prologue to this movie, encounters the wrath of the high school kids there, who don't like him. They think he's a jerk, he frightens them, so they want to play a prank on him. So they put a lit up sort of skull with worms in it on his bedside table. But he wakes up and sees it, screams, knocks the thing onto his own feet, sets himself ablaze. There's all cans of kerosene in there, wouldn't you know it? Don't sleep in a hut full of kerosene, folks. Not a good idea. Not when there's pesky, you know, teenagers around. And so it goes up in flames, he staggers out, falls down a hill into the river, and then wakes up in hospital, and he's a right bloody rip-roaring, spit-roasted mess. And the kids have got away with it. You know, the prank's gone wrong. They didn't mean to set him ablaze. That wasn't part of the deal. But they've got away with it. Anyway, several years later, Cropsy is released from hospital, dressed as a bit of a giallo type noirish figure with a black fedora, black overcoat, black gloves. He first encounters a prostitute. And when she takes one look at his face and starts whimpering, he grabs some scissors and he stabs her to bits and then pushes her head through a window, which is a very, very sort of giallo, Dario Argento sort of thing. So when you first watch the movie, I was well versed in giallo movies when I first saw The Burning at a very tender young age. And not long after it got its release on the UK home video, in its infamously full uncut version, which got promptly banned. Yeah, well, we'll come on to all that. But I thought, they're going for a giallo look here. Oh, this is interesting. Pretty soon after that, Cropsy finds himself back at a nearby camp, nearby to where the camp that he was at originally. And there's a whole new bunch of kids there, and there's some new camp counsellors. I always feel strange saying camp counsellor like that, like, you know. But anyway, but one of these counsellors, Todd, played by Brian Matthews, was one of the kids that set Cropsy ablaze. And throughout the course of the movie, he'll have flashbacks to that and realise, oh my god, the Cropsy Legend. We've created the Cropsy Legend. It's true. Oh, and I was part of it. Oh no. I've got to save these kids. But Cropsy arrives there and finds his old trusty shears, gets himself a big pair of workman's boots, puts his old trusty overalls on, must have had a spare set because his previous set got flambéed, and begins to wreak havoc on the school kids. Now, this film, directed by Tony Maylam, released back in 1981. Tony Maylam was the product of a lot of rock and pop video documentaries which he'd done throughout the 70s. And you may notice them playing music by Rick Wakeman. Rick Wakeman from Yes! You know, superb songwriter and composer and keyboard artist, progressive rock. He did the soundtrack for The Burning. So initially you think, well, he's an unusual choice for that. Like, okay, you get Mike Oldfield, Tubular Bells for The Exorcist. Why would you get... And you got Goblin, obviously, for Dario Argento. So again, that whole Giallo thing, you can see how I just remembered that. That just hit me again there. So Goblin for Dario Argento, prog rock. And this with a sort of Giallo type introduction. And then we go to Stalk and Slash. And it's trying to be different from all the other bevy of teen slaughterfests, festooning cinema screens at the time and video library shelves. This one tries to be a bit more different, a bit more daring. So they get a prog rock soundtrack on this one as well. Now this was directed by Tony Maylam, who went on to do the Rutger Hauer cult classic that is Split Second. One day I'll cover that. I think it's a massively flawed movie. It's a film that I really, really want to love, and yet come away all the time going thinking, oh, that just didn't do it for me. I really want to love it, but it just doesn't hang together. But, you know, kudos for trying though. But English film director, and as I say, music documentary filmmaker, Maylam does a really good job with this movie. He builds up all the big roster of teens that are in this film. And unlike a lot of like the Friday the 13th movies, where it's only a handful of people actually going to be at the camp, they're all arriving before the teens all get there for the vacation. You know, they're just going to do the place up, they're caretakers and stuff like that. You know, and they get picked off. This has a huge number of teens who are there, and a very meagre bunch of actual counsellors. And I like the fact that the film then takes a bit of time for us to get to know all the teens, and they become a lot more than just, you know, the one-note cliches that they are in all the other movies, this, you know, the Friday the 13th franchise ad infinitum. You do get to know, and you do think some of them are jerk-offs, some of them are, one's a jerk-off, but he's actually all right, and others are just, you know, loudmouth, silly, babbling bitches. And I also like the fact that no one's particularly good looking in this movie, because I feel like I'd fit right in. No, in all of the movies, they are babes, they're starlets, they are gorgeous beyond belief. But these, yeah, there's certainly some attractive people in this movie, but they're not on the same sort of league as what you get in the other franchises. They are just basically normal looking people. And I like that as well. And I like the interactions, and I say you get to know them, so when things really do, you know, go awry badly, and those shears come into play, you do care. And there's a rarity in a horror movie for the teens getting killed. So anyway, Cropsy has returned, and Cropsy wants revenge. The thing is, these kids aren't even the ones that did it to him, but he doesn't care. He just wants revenge. And taking the form of the campfire tale, which gets told in this movie, and someone reenacts the part of Cropsy and leaps into the middle of them. And, you know, it's a bit dangerous. It's talking about a guy who got set on fire and then, you know, wants revenge. And they're all sitting around a big campfire, like, and this guy suddenly springs up at the pivotal moment and leaps in, scaring the shit out of everybody, and then dances almost over the fire. You know, art imitating reality imitating art. The whole thing could have gone up, and another Cropsy could have been born right then and there. But Cropsy then gets to work on these guys. Our main cast with the two major camp counsellors, Todd, who was there at the initial Cropsy burning, the real Cropsy burning, and what's her name, Michelle, played by Leah Ayres, who spends most of the film in a swimsuit, a little skimpy swimsuit, and she's attractive. They go off in canoes and they go further into the woods and all of that, and then during a particular stormy fracas in the lake, a love-making scene which then goes wrong, a girl storms off, her clothes have been strewn everywhere by Cropsy, but Cropsy will then get her and her body goes missing. The poor guy who was with her kind of gets incriminated, and it's like, what have you done with her? And he's like, I haven't done anything with her, we've just had a bit of a row, that's all it is. And then you realise that all the canoes have gone as well. Oh, so Karen took a canoe and let all the other ones go as well. She was that annoyed. Really? That's what happened? No, I told you, man, listen to me, nothing happened. You know, and all this kind of stuff. We know what happened. Cropsy's, let loose all the canoes and he's killed Karen. So our intrepid teens, led by, these mastered adventurers and outdoorsmen, Todd and Michelle, they stitch together a raft, right? And a hand-picked bunch of about 5 kids get on the raft, right? Go back to our other camp, the main camp, go and get help. Or if you find the canoes, bring them back. And we'll wait here for you. Good luck, y'all! And this is Dave Ascot's scene. This is the scene that everyone remembers from the burning. And it does work extraordinarily well. We have these bicker bantering teens. And I like the thing about the teens as well, you've got some older ones and some younger ones. And again, you've got like, instead of just being all like 17, 18, you know, that sort of age, you've got some who are clearly younger than that who are part of this team. And it works. It's more like a real summer camp where you've got different age groups in there. Anyway, back to the raft. So they're all like, you know, they're arguing, hey, you're not doing anything back there. We're doing all the work up front. Yeah, I'll stop arguing. You guys shut the fuck up. You know, you get all this. And they're paddling. And then suddenly, this idyllic lake. And it's shot. It's upstate New York somewhere. Lake Tonapandi, Tonabundi, Lake Tona something, Tonawanga. I don't know. Some big Micmac Indian native name. But it's gorgeous. I mean, you can see the mosquitoes flying around and all that, like. But the woodland itself is just idyllic. And this lake is serene and gorgeous. And the raft, they're slowly going across it. And then, hey, isn't that one of our canoes? And there's a canoe. Just one canoe. Just idling on the top of the water. Let's go get it. Come on. Hey, you guys, we got it. Yeah, we found one. Now, you already know something's going to happen there. The first time you watch it, you're thinking, there's going to be a body in that canoe. Don't go near it. And you get near it. Right, reach hold of it. Get hold of it now. And just, we can get aboard. And as soon as they get near it, great camera work as well. Great editing as they get closer and closer. Suddenly, from that canoe, Cropsy stands up. Whoa, with the shears. Hold on. They're in a bag. To this music, as it happens, he stands up. You only see him from behind, and you just see the kids' terrified reactions. Oh, God, this horrific thing. Forget the fact that anyone standing up in a canoe like that is going to overturn the canoe. Doesn't matter. He's a maniac. And he stands up, brings the shears down. First kid gets it across the collarbone in a white t-shirt. And just looks at it like, oh God. Another girl gets the shears in her back and he pitches her off the side into the water. Then he misses. He brings the shears down. And this what makes it all the more effective is that you see that they're real shears. It puts it in your mind, they are real. He thuds them down into the canoe itself. Boom! With a proper realistic thunk. And it sticks in. And you're like, that cements they're real. Next kid, I forget his name now, but he sticks his hands up like that, and the infamous scene, Cropsy then goes whoosh, and his poor kid's fingers go flying, cuts on the scene, it's like that, blood's flying everywhere. You don't see him get killed, but you will see his body afterwards. And then you get Eddie, who was the one who lost Karen after their little tizzy in the lake the night before, and all the canoes went missing. Eddie's also the one that played the fake Cropsy during the campfire tale. Eddie is played by Ned Eisenberg. Now, he's gone on to a lot of other things, as many of these cast members have done, as you'd expect. But the film I knew him from was The Exterminator, sort of like the year before, I think, made by James Glickenhaus, starring Robert Ginty, or Robert Ginty, depending on how you want to pronounce it. But the Vietnam veterans returning to New York, and the gangs create hell for them, and Robert Ginty's mate, played by the great muscle-bound Steve James, gets done in, and Ned Eisenberg plays the Hispanic leader of this gang, who uses another garden implement, a little hand rake, one of those little clawed hand rakes with 2 spikes on it, or maybe even 3, I don't know. And after he's beaten Steve James to a pulp, he then slams it into his back, pulls it down his back, and twists and turns, putting him into, well, pretty much a coma, and, well, his life does get ended. And Robert Ginty goes on revenge and takes them all out. But that's Ned Eisenberg. He is lying there and he falls back, like that. And you see his face, his eyes widen, and Cropsy brings the shears down, right into his throat, and then does a bit of a twist as he's coughing up blood, then pulls them out. And then the last girl, she gets a vicious swipe across the forehead. Whoa, like that, opening up a huge gash. Whoa, down she goes. And then you see an artful arm just sliding over the edge of the raft with blood slowly trickling down it. And then in a little trick, which you see a lot in the movie after a bit of bloodletting, the screen goes completely red, bright red, or deep red, we should say, deep red. It is a phenomenal sequence. The suspense built up to it is marvellous. You know something bad's going to happen, but the first time you watch it, you don't know what it's going to be. And when you just see Cropsy stand up with these shears, oh my God. And then the carnage that he rakes across that raft is just, it's gut-wrenching, skull-splitting, finger-snipping good. I mean, when you watch it now, it is diluted a bit because you know what's gonna happen, but it still has the power to shock because the combination of suspense, shock jolt, and then the gore. So you've got everything there. Good acting, good reaction shots, and great editing. The whole thing comes together to make a scene of absolute carnage in a film that does have lots of stalk and slash and chasing and other kills, and they are really, really good, very gory, very brutal, and it does sustain its atmosphere. This scene is without doubt the big pivotal scene. This is what Dave was on about, and I totally get it because it blew me away when I first saw it, and having just watched it again, it's still a tremendous jolter without a doubt. The rest of the film, because then they realise that, yeah, there is definitely a killer out there, obviously. Larry Joshua, who's the big glazer he's called, he's the big camp bully. I'm going to do you in now, a camp bully, yeah. And you've got a big nose, haven't you? I don't know, I've got this thing about camp. I've got to hang up on the word camp, you know. And you know what? I should put them down. I could do myself a bit of an injury. And he gets shears in his throat and Cropsy carries him. And it's actually the director, Tony Maylam, in the Cropsy suit carrying with the shear. Sort of like Steve Martin style effect where, you know, it's like the fake arrow through the head. The shears seem to go into his throat and they come out the back. They're just connected, two pieces. And he sticks him to a tree. But the shears at the back are real, so they do stick in the tree. And the way they got him carried is he's on two poles. So his hands, he's actually on two poles, so his feet are off the ground. And Tony Maylam is carrying him. Both Tony Maylam and Tom Savini. Tom Savini, who at this time was like an assassin for hire. He'd done Friday the 13th, he'd done Dawn of the Dead, he'd done Martin, he was doing The Prowler, Maniac, The Burning, obviously, so many other movies at this time that he felt like he was an assassin for hire. He was just going from job to job to job, killing teens in the most gory fashion possible. Tom Savini also plays Cropsy in certain shots, like the hands going in, just feet, footwear. When you see Cropsy on fire in the bed at the start, it's Tom Savini's legs that are on fire. He's also done a lot of stunt work as well. So, that scene of Ned Eisenberg, Eddie getting the shears in, that is a direct reversal of what happened to Kevin Bacon with Tom Savini's effects in Friday the 13th Part 1, where the arrow comes through his throat from underneath. It's the real actor's head, fake from there down. So it's Ned Eisenberg's face for real. Camera trickery. The raft isn't horizontal, it's vertical, so he's just stuck his head through and he's out the back like that, fake body down here, and the shears go in, twist around, come out again. He coughs up blood, but he's wedged into this fake raft which is lifted vertically and then just filmed so it looks like he's on the deck, sort of thing. And it works a treat, works an absolute treat. His neck does look a little bit longer than, you know, he's become a bit of a giraffe during that sequence, but, you know, we'll let that go. What's his name? Oh, Brian Backer plays Alfred. Alfred is he's the seedy, wimpy one. I say seedy because he has a penchant for, you know, ogling women and, you know, following people. He's a bit of a voyeur, and he witnesses Larry Joshua, Glazer, getting killed, and the body of Glazer's girlfriend as well. So he runs back to tell Todd, and like, who's the, you know, in charge. And Todd's like, "What are you making this up?" No, I'm not. Come with me. So when they go back to the scene of the crime, and Todd begins to think, hang on a minute, this is all getting too real now for me. Cropsy suddenly appears again and knocks Todd down with a swipe to the head. But like on the girl on the raft whose skull gets opened up, he gets a little nick there, but knocks him out. And then you've got a marvellous sequence of Alfred being chased through the woods. And the way it's shot, a camera racing alongside Alfred running through the woods, and there's trees between us, between the camera and him, and they move in and out like that. It's very well done. Very similar to watching Arnie leg it for his life in Predator when he realises the only commando left and the Predator's chasing him. Just like that. And it looks really, really good. And he looks genuinely terrified as well. And your heart goes out to him, even though he's a bit of a nerdy sort of perv, but doesn't deserve this. And he runs into what was an old mine. You've got all the ramshackle old outbuildings which are all dilapidated, and he hides around these. And then suddenly, Cropsy's hand comes around the corner and grabs him, and then drags him through, a bit like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, a corrugated iron door, and he drags him through the door, gets slammed shut, and he pins Alfred to a beam. He's put a gag over his mouth, and he pins him with the shears across his arm. But Todd's coming back, to try and get him. Todd will have a massive flashback to what happened, realises, shit, this is the guy that we did this to. Oh my God, but I've got to fight to save my life. I've got to fight to save Alfred's life. And they have a final confrontation with Cropsy, who we finally see in all his burnt glory. Tom Savini was a combat photographer in Vietnam. He also studied anatomy and was present at autopsies, and he knew the workings of the body, knew how to create disfigurements and wounds realistically. And he had books on burns, burn victims. He'd spent time in burns units in hospitals, so he knew what they looked like. But as he always says, I didn't have enough time to perfect the look on Lou David's face. I mean, I know Thomas Savini plays the killer a little bit with the hands going in. Tony Maylam is the bulky guy carrying Larry Joshua. But most of it is Lou David running around in the makeup and all that. And he said, if I had more time, I'd have got the effects right. It should have been no nose, no eyelids, no lips. The colours would have been different. But he still creates a fantastically melted, the face is half slid down, one glassy eye, and there's lots of different colours in it, hairless. It's horrible. In a couple of shots, when you see him in all his glory, he looks like the boat zombie from Zombie Flesh Eaters, the one that suddenly comes out, from down below in the hold, and then takes a bite out of the first copper, and all his blood's going everywhere, and then gets shot off the boat by the copper's partner and falls into the Hudson Bay. Looks a bit like that, anyway. But Lou David, as Thomas Savini says, looks like this. Not as green, obviously, but his nose is upturned, like the way Lon Chaney Sr. played the Phantom of the Opera. So he said, all I did was I pulled his nose back even further, and just gave him like a rictus sort of grin, and then did all the elaborate makeup on him. Cropsy, in a poetic sort of final attack, has an oxyacetylene lamp, and he's igniting that, a little flame jet's coming out. Todd's got an axe, but they're battling, sort of flame jet and an axe, and he's still got Alfred pinned to the wall. Finally, they manage to disarm him, and they think they've took him down, and he frees Alfred. In the meantime, Alfred has put the shears in Cropsy's back, but he comes back up again in a final shock moment. But Todd gets the axe, and in a great, boosh! Right, the axe goes right into half of his face, big welter of gore comes out, and he's now got the shears in his back, an axe in his head, he stood against a pillar, and Alfred throws the oxyacetylene lamp at his legs and sets him ablaze all over again. It's a great film. The shocks are genuine. You do give a shit about the characters, which is an absolute rarity, in this field. Thomas Savini did the great effects for Friday the 13th. He was then approached to do Friday the 13th Part 2, and he said, what? So Jason's alive. Jason, the drowned kid, who I had coming back as a sort of dream fantasy at the end, shock ending of the first one, when the mother was the killer. You're now bringing him back. Well, nothing to do with it. So because he walked away from that, he went straight into the burning. He's now since, because he did Friday the 13th Part 4 with the machete in the head and all that, and the fingers coming out. More finger violence. And he said, I kind of regret that now, because Friday the 13th was actually Part 2 was actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be. And now we understand that Jason's just a bogeyman, and that's how the franchise was going to go. But he's still very happy with the effects work that he did on The Burning. And they are very, very good. Lots of slit throats, lots of gushing blood, lots of spurtage. It's violent, it's got plenty of jolts in it, but it takes time to let you get to know the characters. So when they get off one by one, you know, you do care. As I say, it's a rarity in this field. Bizarrely, this was the first film that Miramax ever got made. Miramax, yeah. Harvey Weinstein, Wankstein, more like. Yeah, naughty boy is Harvey. So Infamy, again, the film was banned in this country, in the UK. A lot of the time, you had to be lucky which version you picked up off the video shelves, because one, the BBFC had already trimmed a couple of sequences, notably the finger slicing bit. So if you were lucky, you got the uncut version, which I did straight away, of course. The film also got a lot of notoriety and infamy around America and other territories. It had a big battle with the MPAA at the time about its rating, and in certain states it wasn't even shown. Tom Savini went down to Florida to publicise the movie, and apparently the film never even got shown there till way afterwards, obviously. But initially it was like, no, not having that. But The Burning is a great stalk and slash movie. The whole summer camp thing. Yeah, folks, this is not Rick Wakeman doing this. I can guarantee you that. Yeah, let's get on to a bit more nastiness. Because he has some great synthesized, you know, builds up, and then this great shrieking sort of crescendo, especially when Cropsy gets up out of that canoe with those shears. Yeah, very 70s, early 80s, that warbling sort of synth sound. But yeah, The Burning has everything, you know, full body suit, stuntman on fire, lots of gore, great effects. There's a fair bit of nudity in it as well, if you like that sort of thing. And I know, certainly, you do. And I know, Dave, you do as well. But, so, The Burning gets 2 thumbs up, at the risk of getting them snipped off with a pair of shears. It's sheer bloody genius. Tony Maylam directs it really well, with emphasis on characterization and then sustained set piece. And then the chases, Alfred running through the woods, it's terrifically well done. And you do feel for him. And the film sort of subverts the whole final girl, you know, phenomenon. It's a final boy, it's a final lad, and another guy comes to rescue him. It's 2 blokes that are doing the final fight. Now that is completely, you know, at odds with what you would normally see. The last girl having to find her survival wits and like fight back. But it works. That is the raft sequence again, which is the standout moment. So folks, there you go. There's another, you know, one good scare for Halloween. Although again, once again, I didn't just give you one good scare. There's a whole load. There's a smorgasbord of scares in this movie. Of course there is. But it's well worth your time and your effort to watch it. If you've seen it before, revisit it. This time, yeah, it's going to work perfectly. But that sequence, sustained build-up, the cutting, the way that they edit it together, they're drifting nearer. The canoe seems to be moving slightly. They move nearer. The camera angle slightly changed. It's smooth, but it also manages to throw you a little bit at the same time, and then just like reaching out for the side of the canoe, and then whoa, he comes up. Oh, terrific stuff, tremendous, folks. I have been always Shelby, kilted and Celtic for your entertainment. So please do keep it Celtic, keep it Celtic. Be happy, be safe, you all. And Halloween is fast approaching, and we all deserve one good scare at least. So folks, I'm going to see you all later. And don't get your fingers burned or snipped off. It ain't good.